So finally, I brought you in here for all of this preamble.
That's good.
Do you want to talk NHL draft preview, or actually, I'll say what we're going to talk about.
Up to you.
What's your take, because you've probably looked into this very deeply, on the Q returning Friday night, and looks like no problems, but the OHL and WHL not playing? What are the people in your circle saying?
Well, the only thing with the Q is that the only place they have a little bit of issues is with the players coming over, because there's no teams in the United States, right? The OHL and the WHL both have teams in the U.S. So, I mean, how does that work with quarantining? And then you go, well, you can't really do a Canadian division and American division. You got a few teams just playing each other over and over. You're quarantining all the time. It's kind of a fine line. Hopefully something gets figured out with the border there right away. But it's such a fine line when you're dealing with two different countries, and then you're trying to get governments to work together and get answers from each. Like, that stuff takes time. And, you know, lots of times with the government, you're not getting answers back immediately. There's nobody you can just call and say, hey, what's the answer? It's always a couple-week process, at least it seems like. So.
Jeff, the viewer, says there's no fights in that league. It probably helps. LOL. Well, there are fights, which they've now added 10 minutes to the 5 to appease the government. It's an interesting time, isn't it? And we're sitting here as a sports show, Jared, and I thank God I dabble a little bit outside of sports, or I'd be completely far gone and not understanding. Like, there are more important priorities, I get it, than sports. I totally get that. But it's sort of like, how long are the sports leagues supposed to sit around and do nothing if you're not going to financially support them because they're not playing? Because you understand the sports industry is crumbling. The Canadian Football League may die because of COVID control. So I understand the seriousness of the virus. I would ask the people that are on the other side, please think about the seriousness of what sports is going through. Fair?
Well, people say, well, it's just sports or it's just life, but you need something to do or you don't have a life. So, I mean, you've got to, I think if I was in charge, I'd be trying to figure out a way. I mean, obviously, there's too much that goes into it, but you got to get people back in the arenas in some fashion. I mean, if you can go to the grocery store and people are bumping into each other and fondling with their masks, half people don't have them. If you can go do that and stand a few feet away from a person, I don't know why you can't, have one person every few seats. Or one person every 3-4 seats. I mean, I know it's a tough thing, but we got to look at the social consequences and what's happening, because, I mean, you give people nothing to do, and look at what's happened, what's gone on with suicides and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's not life, is what some people say. I think it is. I think it's what. I mean, you need something to do.
I know. Well, and I don't really want to get into that argument, because believe me, I've had enough arguments. I've had enough people just lose their minds on me about all of this stuff. I mean, I could point out there's been 10 times as many accidental overdose deaths in this province, but people say, well, that's a choice. It was their choice to do drugs. Or the suicide you mentioned, well, it's a choice to take your life. Not really. As opposed to getting the virus because of somebody else not being responsible. But I saw a video from, I think it was Switzerland, posted last night from a pro hockey game. They went all the way around the rink and it was full. So my thing is, it's just a difference in mentality. I have mine. The folks that have the overly precautious nature have theirs. And right for now, they're right, because this is what we're following with the government. But there are other countries and other states that view it differently.
And
that's all.
And if you want to stay home, that's an option. You can always stay home with a mask and your lotion, and you're safe, if that's your thoughts.
That would be the best thing for them.
Yeah. I mean, you can have your groceries delivered, food, everything. You let everybody else get out.
Chris Bird in Toronto's watching. He says, big minor hockey news out of Southern Ontario. The GTHL, isn't that the Greater Toronto Hockey League, announced on Saturday that they will delay hockey until at least January 4th, 2021. He says, what, if any, ripple effect to junior hockey? Just hang on. Jeff Krieger goes on to say, the SJHL is close, I hear. If sports like the WHL and SJHL people will do what they want, some will wear the masks and some will say no. I don't know. I don't want to... You were talking about our government here. We have an election October 26th, and quite frankly, the Sask Party, they're my guys. And in this province, they're not as open as other provinces. for a variety of reasons. But I don't want to slam those guys because those are my guys and they're doing their best. But I do have... Well, it's tough. I sit here not really want to talk about it, and yet everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
So that's the double-edged sword that I sit on every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something that's going on. I mean, you got to talk. It's something you don't want to talk about because nobody wants to say the wrong thing and then go, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that about that.
I'm not as worried about that. I mean, I'm no doctor, disease specialist. I'm not. I have my thoughts. I've dropped little bits of them along the way and have ticked a lot of people off. But I don't care because we own the show and I can't be fired. So if you don't like it, don't watch. If you don't like it, don't read the column.
Yeah.
But I don't have all the information. But I'll say this, and I said it a couple times last week. I've heard from health people, multiple ones, and none of them have the same. None of them have the same position on coronavirus.
No. It's like, well, listen to doctors, listen to medical professionals, and then they all say something different. So it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's tough to know who to listen to. But at some point, we all have to remember that we're here for a reason. We gotta live some sort of life as well, and we can be safe while we do that.
So I did mention that we would bring you in. We've got about 4 minutes left in this segment to talk about the NHL draft, and I find it somewhat delicious. My team, as you know, is the Golden Knights. Your team is who? The LA Kings. Your dad likes Toronto, so you've fallen in line with Toronto. Well, you've always said you're a Kings fan. Is that just when they're winning?
I've always
when they're winning.
No, I was one before Gretzky got there. Before Gretzky got there, I'm a Matthews guy. I don't know. I love Matthews, and I'm becoming a Marner guy. So that's why I pull for Toronto since they got in the league. I was a bandwagon jumper on Toronto.
What on earth would make you a Mitch Marner guy? The 0 goals he scored in the playoffs?
Skill, I just love his skill. And for a little guy, I think he's going to be a playoff guy. I don't think he's going to be a guy who disappears every year in the playoffs. But I just absolutely love Marner. And then Matthews, how do you not love that?
Please tell me, because we all know Alexis Lafreniere is going number 1 to the Rangers. The Rangers are already talking about it. So and he is good. Yeah. I mean, I only remember watching him from the World Juniors, but he was at another level there.
Yeah.
I guess the next thing that I'm watching for is this Russian goalie. And I know that you've done a mock draft for the Squadcast, and all your picks are on their social media. Where do you think this Russian goalie is going to go?
Yaroslav Askarov. I think he's going around 9 or 10, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. There's a lot of people thinking he's going mid to late first round, but I think people are starting to look around and they see Samsonov coming in, and he was 22nd or 23rd by Washington 4 or 5 years ago. They're seeing these guys. Askarov is said to be the best goalie prospect since Carey Price. He's a right-handed catching kid. He played. His only hiccup was in the World Junior Championship this year. He let in a few bad goals. He's 17 years old playing against 19-year-olds, 18, 19-year-olds. So little hiccup there, but he's medaled in every single international competition he's ever played in, and he's just... He's so good. He'll give guys a spot. He'll drop his glove and give it to him all day. And as soon as the guy whips there, he'll take it away. He's an unbelievable talent. I could see him going to Minnesota's picking at 9. I think Minnesota's going to work out a deal. They've got Matthew Boldy in the system as a centerman. I think they need more centermen. I think they're going to try and get that number 5 pick from Ottawa. And I think Ottawa will be willing to give it. So that right there, that throws off the whole mock draft. But drafts always happen. I think you're going to see probably Minnesota move up, try and take Marco Rossi, Cole Perfetti, somebody like that. And then you're going to see Ottawa is who I'm thinking is going to trade down to 9 and try and get Askarov. But we'll see. I mean, they can use a goalie. Carolina can use a goalie. Minnesota can use a goalie too. So, I mean, do you want a centerman or do you want a goalie? But I think he's going around that number 10 area, 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Well, you and Clark, it's a good thing you're going on their show tonight because I don't get as geeked up about the drafts as much as you do. The Hall of Fame is more my thing. Yeah. And I don't even really know who the prospects are per se. So I kind of brought you in to fill me in on that. And you just did. I mean, Ottawa, they got rid of Craig Anderson, so I know that they need a goalie. But you got Henrik Lundqvist on the market and Braden Holtby's going on the market. So you want to draft a kid, The Oilers have said they want to be in on Askarov too, and I'm like, how many goalies do you need? You got Stuart Skinner on the way up. You got Mikko Koskinen. You got Mike Smith. I mean, can you pick one?
Yeah.
Instead of 4 average?
Yeah, I think they're going to let. It looks like Mike Smith probably. I don't know if he's going to be back. I didn't hear anything today, but depending on, I think the Oilers would love Askarov, but I don't think he's going to be around at 14 where they're sitting. I think they. I mean, they're gonna have some good players to pick from at 14. Really, that whole first round. I think the Oilers will probably get somebody like Seth Jarvis at 14 from Portland. He was in the last 33 games of the year. I think he was right around 3 points a game as a 17-year-old. I mean, he's an unbelievable.
He's going to be on the show tomorrow.
Is he?
As Clark has just told me, Seth Jarvis. Now, so look, the comments have just gone crazy. So clearly, you folks still want to talk some hockey.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.